All right, now we are live.
All
Hi,
right.
Jenny.
Hi, Caitlyn. Good
How are you
morning.
doing?
Doing good. How are you doing?
Wonderful. So we are live on both our Facebook and our YouTube, and we're going to give it a minute or two for people to come on and be able to answer questions as people join us. So we are a couple minutes early. Yeah, we'll just wait for folks to come on. It is noon Eastern time, right?
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
So,
So for us
yeah,
West Coasters, we're bright and early and starting the day. How's your day so far, Jenny?
it's good. It was
Yeah.
busy driving kids to school and um, coming back home, but good.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, same here. So it's just running around and catching breath and trying to like
Right.
get sweat off my brow so we don't look like we're
Filling up the coffee before
filling up the
we start.
coffee. Yeah, so we're seeing some people come on. The webinar we're going to start in just a few minutes is 4 ways to stop worrying about money right now. And money worries are huge. They're huge. A big issue. And we're seeing people approach us with random worries and random questions. So we've been kind of keeping mental note of these worries and came up with a list of 4 ways to stop worrying about money right now. And I think what's interesting, Jenny, and chime in at any time, when we're talking about financial discipleship, it's not, you're not there at the finish line. You're there at the starting line, right? Is that
Mhm.
something that resonates with you as well?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Mm.
Like, there's so many things. Like, when you look at where your finances are right now, there's like so many ways you can imagine things going wrong. And it's hard sometimes to imagine ever getting to that finish line of having financial freedom, of not having to worry about finances anymore, basically. So.
Yeah. And I mean, people are creative with their imaginations. They come up with some interesting scenarios, and some of them are really based in fact. Like they saw family members go through things, or they, maybe have been through them themselves. But really, I mean, one of the things we're going to talk about today is how sunlight is the best disinfectant. That is the best way to get these things out in the open and get these worries under control so you can come up with a plan that's informed by our faith and then move forward as financial disciples. So I think we have, I think we can go ahead and get going.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. So the first one we're going to talk about out of the 4 ways to stop your worrying about money right now. The first way is to indulge your worries. And this seems counterintuitive, doesn't it?
It really does, because you think, okay, I'm a worrier in general, and it's like, okay, think about it more or worry about it more in order to solve my problems. But it really does, I think, make sense when you think it through, not just in a worrying mindset, but actually like process, okay, if this happens, what would happen next? And kind of creating a timeline of what could happen and really thinking it through and not just letting your mind kind of go crazy with all of the what ifs that could happen.
Yeah, for sure. And this reminds me of like when my little ones, especially when they were little and they're scared of like what is in the closet after dark.
Right.
And sometimes all you have to do with them is open the closet doors and they have to just peek inside and make sure the monster's not there, or the monster's like, I don't know, or a shadow off something in their room. And just going through the process of evaluating the worry is it reduces anxiety in itself. So when we're talking about potential financial worries that people stress about, big one we hear about these days is job loss. People are still worried about what their jobs are going to be doing and what this looks like in the future. Medical emergencies are huge. You don't know, and often medical emergencies pair up with job loss, right? When someone gets ill for a while, they're going to have a period of unemployment. Emergency car expenses, no joke. Like, you and I both drive older minivans.
Right.
It's a thing.
Definitely.
Death in the family, that can be really expensive, especially if the loved one doesn't have the proper insurances or doesn't have the savings. And now that expense is passed on to the family members. And emergency home expenses. Homeowners, you get it. Like, how these things can add up. So often we keep those worries tucked away in our closets, and we don't want to open the door. But we're going to talk about today is think about those worries, get them out, pen to paper, get those thoughts out. What would happen? What would it look like if you went through a job loss, and play that scenario out, pen to paper, and get it out there. Like I said, sunlight's the best disinfectant. Write it out and think about what safeguards you have in place. What resources do you have access to? Do you have an emergency fund? If you did experience something like a job loss, do you have access to maybe a local food bank, or I don't know, all these different things? Get all your resources out there, and then weigh your resources against the anxiety and say, how do I match these things up? So when this thing happens, I just jump into my plan. I remember years ago, you may have done this with your kids as well. When they were starting to eat, my husband and I, like solid foods, we would do the first aid classes to just remind ourselves how to prevent choking and all these different things. It's so silly, these neuroses I had. But the Red Cross always says that you default to your plans. You default to your highest level of training. You don't rise to the occasion. So come up with a plan. So when that anxiety, if it were to come to fruition, job loss, medical emergency, death in the family, the plan is there and you jump into your plan. And then when that anxiety bubbles up again, when you're sitting at the red light and that thought goes through your mind about like, oh no, what if I do lose my job? Remind yourself quickly, I have a plan. And that anxiety manages to go away on its own. So indulge your worries, first way.
I think that's awesome, because in those moments too, you have so much emotion built up and you kind of have that fight or flight part of your brain kicks in and you just get so anxious. So having that plan really does just bring you back down to be able to think rationally and to not freak out over the situation that you're in. So.
Yeah, for sure. So that was number one. The second one that we want to talk about out of the 4 ways to stop your worrying right now is just turn to your numbers. Numbers are facts. They don't lie. We always emphasize the personal part of personal finance, but the numbers are important as well, because numbers are facts. They just tell us what is. So look at your facts. What is your income? I really do find it surprising when we work with people one-on-one, how few people are really aware of their true income. Like we think we know we earn about X number of dollars a month. A lot of people don't really know their true income, and get that all out there. What is your take-home income from, your employment? What about rental income, dividends? Do you have any, stock holdings, all these different things? Put it all out there and start with those facts. And those are usually surprising for people, because I see people like go one way or another with their their analysis. And then after that, you want to analyze your expenses. It's important that you look at the past 3 months of expenses. And one of the reasons why is because we always think the month that we're in is like a one-off, right? So we're in December right now. No one likes using their December numbers, because December is a one-off. Like, it's Christmas. This isn't a normal month. And then come January and you have like a loved one's birthday, right? Well, that's a one-off. And then you hit February and then you're at Valentine's Day and maybe, whatever else. Well, that's a one-off. There's no normal month. It doesn't. Right. That's not a thing. And your normal month is maybe once a year. That's not normal. So 3 months provides you a good average of what your expenses are. So we look at our income first, then we look at our expenses. And then after that, we calculate the balance. If you're in a surplus, that's good. But what are you doing with that surplus? Are you giving every dollar a purpose? Every dollar we spend is vote for the kind of world we want to build, right? So if you're letting it sit there, what is that saying? So every dollar should have a purpose in some way. After that, then if you have a deficit, then your options are you can decrease your expenses, you can increase your income, or you can do a combination of the two. But you got to do something, because that only goes for so long before you start hitting into trouble and hitting into debt. So that's the second thing, is work the numbers. Numbers are facts. Lean into them. It's really gonna. I think we like do the financial ostrich sometimes, like put our head in the hole and not deal with things. But that is really the best way to kind of take a deep breath and look at the facts, and then you can work the facts.
Awesome.
All right. The third one is, this is hard. This is really hard. And this is easier said than done, is focus on what you can control. Isn't that so hard to do?
Oh, yeah.
especially with all these kids.
Right. You want to be able to control everything to be able to kind of wrap a bubble around a situation and make it go your way. But that's not going to help anything. You do really have to just look at the things that are in your hands that you can make changes to, and what expenses can you change, can you cut out, or can you minimize in your life? Is there a way that you can increase your income? Is there something you could do on the side? Is there something that you can sell that you're not using? What are ways that you can bring more money in? Can you ask for a raise? Looking beyond the current situation and saying, okay, maybe I can do waitressing on the weekend or something in order to get out of a situation. You can change how much money is coming in to a certain point. And then obviously your variable expenses for the month, the things like housing is hard, and your bills, those are something that you can't really change very much. But how much are you spending on clothing per month? How much are you spending on entertainment per month? Can you cut your grocery bill each month? Can you try to create a meal plan that is less expensive? There are things that you are able to control and cut out in your life.
For sure. And this always makes me think of, we all love those Venn diagrams, right? Where there's like two circles and the overlap is where the magic happens. And really, like, the things we can control and the stuff we stress about, the overlap is usually pretty thin.
Right.
So we need to give thought to what is it that we can't control? Because when we focus all of our time and all of our energy on things outside of our control, that's when we get into burnout. And that's dangerous, because that's when we just throw up our hands and we feel like we have no control. When in reality, you're just focusing on stuff that wasn't in your control anyways. So we want to focus, like you were saying, discretionary income, discretionary expenses. Go back there. Discretionary expenses. We can affect those. And even things like mortgage and rent, when that comes due, that lease comes due, maybe now's the time to go back to, less expensive housing if that's the appropriate decision for you. So we just want to focus on what you can control and not use the stuff you can't control as an excuse for analysis paralysis and not doing anything. That's what we want to do, is focus there. So, all right. So first one we talked about is we're going to indulge our worries and get those worries out on paper. Make a plan, contingency plan for all those things. Second one is work the numbers. Your numbers are friends because they are facts. The third one is focus on what you can control. And the fourth is to be kind with yourself. I love this quote from St. Teresa of Calcutta. Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow has not yet come. We only have today. Let us begin.
Yeah.
You're starting this, you're starting it, right? Like that's so good. I think people often feel like when they come and meet, whether it be for a coaching session or whatever it is, they feel like they're starting way behind the pack. And that's how we kind of work as humans. Like if you think about social media, the highlight reel of people's lives, and you look around your neighbors and they always, it seems like they have better cars and people look less stressed. You're not seeing the true picture of what they're going through, and you're not being fair to yourself, because your starting line is your starting line. It doesn't mean that you're behind everyone else. You are where you're at today on your journey. And today, we only have today, so let us begin. So be kind with yourself. Remind yourself that you are a child of God. And it's really important to remember that God doesn't want anyone to suffer just for the sake of suffering. That's pointless. If we suffer and we offer it up, that is redemptive suffering. So don't let your financial stresses go wasted. Offer them up. Every stress, every anxiety can be offered up in redemptive suffering and unification with Christ on the cross.
I love that. I think that's my favorite one, obviously, especially when you said, remember that you're a child of God. I think so many of us find or seek our value in our finances, how well off we are, our houses, our cars, like you said. So remembering, where does your value come from? You are a child of God, and you're just on this financial journey.
Yeah, speaking of child of God, I
hear Maris is here with me.
Background. All All right, so those are the 4 ways to stop worrying right now. And today is Giving Tuesday. We want to remind you, we put the donate button on the Compass Catholic Facebook page. Please donate to Compass Catholic. We are a nonprofit 501c3. We want to bring this message to the entire Catholic world. Our material is translated into Spanish, and we are working on other translations. So we want to make sure we can take this message that is universal and teach all Catholics about how we're supposed to interact with our money to keep God first, and then also to have safety net that the world needs us to have so we can be productive members of society. Our next webinar is the power of and. We're going to talk about how we can do 2 things at the same time, that you can be a financial disciple and be a generous Catholic. It is possible, and we're going to talk about that and how to create a plan for that. But consider us in your Giving Tuesday generosity plan. We are working really hard to bring the message of financial discipleship to the Catholic world. And we appreciate all of our donors, all those who've donated so far. You all are amazing. And we're going to be back in about a little less than 3 hours.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
Thanks so much, Caitlyn.
All right. God bless.
Bye, everybody. Bye.